The 21-22 season is coming to an end. It is time to sum it up. During the last 9 months, we've been admiring the progress of Salah and Vinicius, noticing the goal-scoring skills of Vlahovic and emphasizing Pedri's new level. But there were also a bunch of players who made their fans sick because of their bad performance. Many stars that were once rocking in the Champions League now are just the pale shadows of themselves. In this video, we're going to tell you about the biggest disappointments of this season. But before we start, try to answer a question. Which keeper suffered the most from Messi's goals during the Argentine's career? Iker Casillas, Diego Alves, Santiago Canizares, Petr Cech. Antoine Griezmann and Jan Oblak. 2 years ago, Atletico won the La Liga title, and they are rightfully considered one of the strongest teams in Europe. But very soon Los Colchoneros rolled back to the factory settings and found themselves in a little crisis. They got knocked out from the Champions League, and in La Liga they're fighting with Sevilla for the 3rd place. The reason for that is the lack of tactical ideas and poor form of team leaders. The most disappointing are the attacking players. By the moment of this video, none of the Atletico forwards has scored more than 11 goals this season. Antoine Griezmann, with his ridiculous 3 goals in La Liga, best describes this crisis. In summer, it seemed like Atletico made a great deal with loaning Griezmann from Barcelona with the buyout clause of 40 million. But Grizzy is still very far from the brilliance he used to show back in the days. This season he scored 8 goals and made 5 assists in all competitions. Not a disastrous result for an average forward, but very weak for Antoine. Griezmann compensates this with superb work off the ball. Stats are also proving this. He's among the best forwards in Europe by the number of pressures, tackles, interceptions and blocks. But the attacking numbers are low. However, Simeone is still happy with the player. Yes, Antoine hasn't scored for several matches, but we're used to it. He is one of those players who contributed the most in the club's history. I have no doubt he'll make it out of this situation. He's one of the best players in the world. But even a bigger disappointment at Atletico is Jan Oblak. For 6 seasons in a row, the Slovenian has been a top-class goalkeeper, but something went wrong this season. Oblak conceded more than 40 goals, while the XGA, the expected goals against metrics, was less for 9.5 goals. This means that the defense worked pretty well, but there are questions to the goalkeeper. Actually, Jan is among the 35% of the worst goalkeepers in Europe this year, as far as the saves go. Very unusual. Probably this is just a temporary decline that happens to all the greatest keepers in the world, from Buffon to Neuer, from Casillas to De Gea. But we can tell how big the problem is only next season. Jack Grealish and Aymeric Laporte. After City was embarrassingly knocked out from the Champions League group stage by Real Madrid, there's a strong desire to criticize the whole team. But let us not forget how confidently Man City performed in the Champions League group stage and how well they played along the Premier League season. However, there are 2 footballers who, to say the least, do not meet the expectations. The first one is the center defender Laporte. City paid 65 million euros for the Basque 4 years ago. It seemed like Aymeric was a perfect fit for Guardiola's system with his great first pass, especially when John Stones almost invited him to replace himself in the first 11 with his endless mistakes. But now 4 years have passed and Laporte has lost his place in the lineup, and in the matches against Real Madrid was far from perfect. This is a classic story of modern football, when the coach sacrifices the defensive skills of a central defender to increase his attacking impact. Laporte is one of the best in Europe by progressive passes and carries, and one of the top central defenders in Europe by shots and goals without considering penalties. But at the same time, his defensive stats are absolutely awful. The second disappointment for City this season was Jack Grealish. Guardiola praises the newcomer for his activity, pressure and versatility, but Grealish obviously doesn't show the level of the most expensive player in the history of the Premier League. 5 goals and 3 assists are ridiculous for a player of his position. Well, hopefully this is just an adaptation period in an unusual game plan. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Also hit the bell button to turn on the notifications, and we continue. Marcel Sabitzer. Sabitzer's summer transfer seemed a perfect move for Bayern Munich. Thanks to the expiring contract, the Roten paid only 15 million euros to buy the leader of their Bundesliga rivals. Marcel should have fit Bayern like a glove because Nagelsmann was the one to bring him to the club as they had worked together. But the season is ending and Sabitzer's stats are very poor. Only 8 appearances in the first 11, 1 goal and 1 assist. Keep in mind that we're talking about one of the most effective players of Bundesliga in the recent past, who just a season ago scored 26 points in goal plus assist system and was the cornerstone in RB Leipzig attacks. The German press reports that the problem may be the conflict with Nagelsmann. The player and the coach literally are not talking to each other. The reasons are still unknown, but it seems like Sabitzer is going to be sold this summer. Bayern is ready to let him go for the same 15 million euros they had paid for him. Romelu Lukaku, Jorginho, Saul Niguez. What Thomas Tuchel did last season is just a miracle. Only in half a year he turned a dull and sleepy team into a tactically precise cyborg that unexpectedly won the Champions League. Tuchel did a great job in short terms, but he also let everyone know that to keep these results on a long distance, he would need to build a new team. This season, Chelsea was expected to become an equal rival for City and Liverpool, especially after concluding the most expensive transfer in their history, bringing Romelu Lukaku back to Stamford Bridge. But as we see, real football is far from a football simulator. Chelsea is in the second season crisis, and a bunch of footballers play worse than a season before. There are even questions to great N'Golo Kante, who has been showing poor attacking game in recent months. But it's too soon to criticize Kante, especially when there are other players at the club that deserved to be criticized even more. First of all, Lukaku. He was really surprised to find himself on the bench. If you take a look at Rome's stats, then you'll see that compared to previous seasons, they dropped heavily. First of all, his goals. Scoring only 5 in the Premier League is just embarrassing. Probably Tuchel didn't even need a Lukaku-type forward. His pressure, tackling and interception stats are very poor. Romelu is not even good at winning headers. Tuchel prefers pacey hovers on the edge of attack. So his possible transfer this summer shouldn't be ruled out. The second problem is Jorginho's terrible shape. The Italian with Brazilian origins showed exemplary football in Euro and made pundits talk about him getting the Ballon d'Or award. But this season killed the hopes. Jorginho slows down Chelsea attacks, lacks in physique, and is usually late for covering zones during the transition phase. Weak spots are especially obvious in matches with top clubs when you need to move up and down the field all the time. Though some think that Jorginho's poor form is the result of the overall team decline. And the one who really can't be justified is the Spaniard Saul. Chelsea loaned him with a buyout clause of 36 million euros. It seemed like a good deal for a 27-year-old player with a huge experience in La Liga and the Champions League under his belt. But the midfielder arrived in such an awful shape that after his debut, Tuchel was terrified and placed him as deep as possible on the bench. The German was really harsh with the player. Saul was suffering on the pitch, making many stupid mistakes. He looked like a player who was not ready to play on this level. Several months later, the situation didn't get better. Saul plays only in lesser important cup matches. He was kept only in 3 Premier League matches in the first 11. It is hard to believe that only some time ago Transfermarkt estimated him for 90 million euros. Jadon Sancho and Harry Maguire. We may need to create a TV series to describe all the problems Man United faced this season. In short, the Red Devils failed the first half of the season. The club board decided to part ways with Solskjaer and sacked him. Was it good for the team? Obviously not. Ralf Rangnick, who had declared his retirement several years ago, only made things worse. The only thing that helps United stay on the surface is Cristiano Ronaldo's unbelievable goal-scoring efficiency. Most of the footballers play below their capabilities, and some of them clearly failed this season. fans question the game of Marcus Rashford, Wan-Bissaka, Pogba and even Bruno Fernandes. But the most hated player among them is the captain Harry Maguire. A bunch of stupid errors and failures started a wave of memes, but it didn't end with mere laughing. The defender once received a message that a bomb was set in his house. He had to call the police with dogs. Fortunately, this was just a threat. Even the United legends criticize Maguire. Here's what Robbie Keane says. His passing and defending are unacceptable. He's not good enough for Manchester United. Now it seems that all Maguire does is just a disaster, declared Paul Scholes. But let us not forget that Harry is really a good defender and he demonstrated great performance in the recent Euro. But Harry's best qualities get lost and his weaknesses are more visible without a structure in the defensive system of the team. What do you think? Will Ten Hag be able to restore the defender's career? The second disappointment for Man United is of course Jadon Sancho. He was brilliant at Borussia, demonstrating impressive numbers in assists and key passes. It all vanished in the Premier League. Sancho scored only 5 goals and made 3 assists this season. A disaster for a player with a price tag of 85 million euros who was supposed to become a key player in the team's attack. It is important to pay attention not only to Jadon's attacking stats, but also his role in starting these attacks. His XG chain and XG build-up metrics have decreased almost twice compared to the last season at Borussia. Sancho is just not involved in the games like he used to be. Just like Maguire, Sancho is not a bad player at all. The Bundesliga fans know well what he's capable of, but there's such chaos in United today that it is hard to shine in that team. Anthony Martial. You do remember Anthony's awesome start in the Premier League, don't you? When he scored a superb goal against Liverpool. There were talks back then about him potentially getting a Ballon d'Or award and that the 60 million euros transfer fee would pay off pretty soon. It's hard to believe, but 7 years have passed since then, and Anthony has achieved nothing. Only 3 times he managed to score more than 10 goals per season. He lost the competition in the team and left for a loan spell. He had perfect conditions in Sevilla, free role, low competition, coach's trust. But what was the result? 0 goals in La Liga. The press criticize Anthony. They say he gets lost in important matches, doesn't work hard and doesn't understand what the coach wants from him. The fans even booed him once for apathy on the pitch. Martial himself is not happy with his loan and wants to go back to Manchester United. But it seems like nobody is waiting for him there. The English media write that Anthony is out of Erik Ten Hag's plans and that the club is even ready to pay 14 million euros to the player to terminate his contract. This is an embarrassing situation for a player of such talent. Frankie de Jong. A little less than a year ago, the Dutchman was included in the shortlist of the players with whom Barcelona would never part. They saw the future Sergio Busquets in de Jong and made plans with him. He was supposed to take control of the game when the veteran retired. For several years, Frankie indeed was one of the best players in the suffering Barcelona. In the chaos and mess of Barca's play, de Jong glued the team together and helped the ball get to the opponent's goals thanks to his individual level and vision. Often he created moments out of nothing. But it is very hard to say that Frankie has become a team leader. It may sound weird, but de Jong suffered the most because of Xavi's arrival. The new head coach set a new play style where the key figure was Busquets with his short passes in the center and Pedri and Gavi, who were actively working without the ball. De Jong doesn't fit that style. He was brilliant at Ajax when he had freedom in the center of the field with Lasse Schöne covering his back. This gave Frankie a chance to create. And in Barca, he doesn't have a defensive partner who would clean up in the back. On the contrary, Busquets himself is so slow that he needs the center-backs to cover from behind. That's why de Jong suffers. Despite his good passing stats, Frankie is among the worst 10 midfielders in Europe this year as far as pressure, tackles, blocks and interceptions are concerned. This is probably the reason for the rumors that Xavi doesn't count on de Jong anymore and in summer he's going to be sold. The perfect option for Frankie would be Manchester United, as next season Ten Hag is taking the seat there, a coach who knows de Jong very well. Besides, if Paul Pogba leaves the club, somebody has to take the place in the center of the field. Messi, Sergio Ramos and Mauro Icardi. It's been proven many times, a lot of stars in the squad doesn't mean a star team. Last year, PSG made a lot of fuss on the transfer market. Before the start of the season, there was a whole line of new heroes in front of the Parc des Princes stands: Donnarumma, Wijnaldum, Ramos, Hakimi and of course Messi. It felt like these stars would boost PSG to become one of the dominant clubs in European football. But as a result, we saw an embarrassing relegation from the Champions League and a sleepy routine title of Ligue 1 with no real competition. Strangely enough, all the major transfers of PSG failed. Donnarumma was unable to beat Navas in the goals and made a fatal error at the most important moment in the Champions League. Wijnaldum is lost on the pitch and is not as efficient as he used to be at Liverpool. And Ramos spent only around 600 minutes on the pitch, and now there are rumors about PSG wanting to terminate his contract. It is also reported that Mauricio Pochettino told the club bosses that he didn't need Donnarumma and Ramos at all. Besides, it's just crazy to make a coach who's cultivating fast football with pressing use lazy Messi and Neymar in his system. So no wonder, only a year after loud transfers, PSG is going to need another reconstruction. Most probably, they will get rid of Mauro Icardi, who seems to be completely forgetting football and diving deep into parties and family walks with Wanda Nara and her children. 5 goals in 30 matches is an embarrassing statistic for any forward, especially for the one who gets more than 8 million euros per year. But the biggest disappointment is of course Messi. Well, occasionally Leo shows his magic and he even made around 10 assists in Ligue 1, but 9 goals by May for Messi is just terrible. Last time he had such results was back in 2005 when he was only 18 years old. Well, maybe Messi still needs to adapt, both to French football and French lifestyle. At Barcelona he had full freedom of actions and movements, he had his long-term partners and understanding in which zones he could receive the ball. In Paris, Leo is more tied to the right wing. In the center, he clashes with Neymar, he also wants to be the playmaker. And the whole team suffers from that, as often only 7 players have to defend, as the attacking trio doesn't care about their defensive duties. Who knows, maybe it's time for Leo to go back home. Who do you think was the biggest disappointment this season? Let us know in the comments, we're very interested to know. See you soon!